In this session, we're going to see how a CBO administrator can activate users or staff members, use those terms interchangeably, and assign roles to that particular staff member in order to make that user a clinician or a supervisor. And then also, once we've done that, how to place the user in a particular reporting unit. So what we do is, after we've logged on as our CBO administrator, we see the home screen here, and we click on the admin button. And where that's going to take us to is the administer staff screen. And now if we had been navigating around in here and we were maybe over on another screen, we could also simply come over here to System Setup, Administration, and click on Staff. And that brings us to the same screen. So now let's say we have, we know our user is named Test Clinician, and we want to make that user a clinician and place him in the A Better Way reporting unit. So the first thing we have to do is find the user, and you can see here's a list of all the users that are in the system that we have visibility to. And we can see that the user is here. If this were a slightly longer list, you would see that there would be maybe several pages to scroll through here. And let's just say we didn't want to necessarily page through and spend a lot of time looking. So what we can do is come and click on the filter button here, Show Filter. We open that up, and we enter the first name and last name of the user we're looking for, so Test Clinician, and then we can click on Apply Filter. And that brings up any users who match the filter criteria. And in this case, we can see, since we've entered first name and last name, it brings up Test Clinician. So the way to start working with this user is simply mouse over and double click, and you can see a couple of panels here to the right have opened up. And this is information for the user. And now the first thing that we want to do, there's three things we want to do. The first thing we want to do is activate the client, of course. So just come over to the Active checkbox and select. The second thing we're going to do is assign a role. And the last thing we're going to do, third thing we're going to do is place the user in a particular reporting unit. So that's what these tabs down here are for. Is the first one for picking a role. And we can see here that in this list there is, this is a list of every role that's available in the system. And the way to add a role to a particular user is simply to mouse over the particular user or the role that you're interested in, click on it, it's highlighted, and then come up and click on the Add Selected button. And you can see it moves it over here to the Assigned Roles panel. If we're not happy with our selection, we made a mistake, we can highlight over here and click on Remove Selected, and moves it back here. But we were right the first time, so let's just do it again. Add Selected, and here we see now we've made this user a clinician. Next thing we want to do is place this user in a reporting unit. So we come over, we click on the Placement tab. Looks a little similar to the roles, except this time we see a list of reporting units to which we have visibility. And if this list were a lot longer, we could, if it spans several screens here, we could search through it. First thing we can do, we can come over to the filter, and we can start typing for the particular reporting unit we're looking for. Now, there's not very many here, so it may not make a very good example, but just to show you how it works, let's say we were looking for A Better Way EPSDT. So we can type any portion of the name string. So if we just type EPSDT, we can see then it just dynamically and immediately filters so that only this reporting unit shows. You can do the same thing with the code here if you know that rather than the name. And so if we type 01KA1, exactly the same thing happens. In this case, we're really interested in placing this clinician at the top level reporting unit here for A Better Way. So here's the one we want. Again, similar to role, you highlight, click on Add Placement. Moves it over here to the Placed panel. If we wanted to remove it, simply highlight, click on Remove Placement. In this case, we did the right thing and we're sure about it. Last thing that we have to do is come down and click on Save. None of the changes have been saved so far, so the active checkbox, the assigned role that we added, and the placement, we can see them here, but so far they've not been saved. Nothing is saved until you come down, click on Save. So click on Save, saves the changes. We can come over here and verify our work. Sure enough, active, placed in a better way, signed role of clinician. Two final points to keep in mind when updating a staff member. There are a couple required fields, the email and the professional suffix. In this case, we can see that they're both filled in, but it may be the case that users may come from Clinician Gateway, and those fields may not be filled in. The system will accept the upload from the Clinician Gateway in that instance, but if they're not filled in and you are trying to activate the staff member and you go to save, if those two fields are not filled in, then you will get a validation error and it will ask you to fill in those two fields. So just simply for email, whatever the staff member's email is, fill in right here, and whatever the professional suffix is, select from the drop-down. And then the last point is with regard to the password. The password is not required when activating the user. If you don't fill in a password and you make the user active, and again by making the user active it's to select active, pick a role, and pick a placement. If no password is filled in, then an activation email will be sent out to the user, and the user at that point can then log in and pick his own password. If you do fill in the password, then the email will not go out, and the system will assume that the password that you have filled in for the user is the correct password, and that the user knows this password and is ready to go. So it's probably recommended to leave the password field blank when saving the user, and allow the staff member to pick his own password. Now, we could do this exact same exercise for a supervising clinician. And again, let's just say we have an existing staff member that we know we want to make a supervisor, and in this case this is going to be test supervisor. So once again, double click, opens up the user, click on active, supervising clinician, add selected, placement, expand the OU tree if it's not expanded, or the reporting unit tree, excuse me, click on a better way, add placement, and save. We can verify our changes if we want to. See the reporting unit is correct, and the assigned role is correct.